Well, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has deployed 200 election observers across the 6 geopolitical zones of the country ahead of Saturday's presidential and non-national assembly elections. Well, this was made known at a briefing by the ECOWAS Election Observation Mission to Nigeria on Thursday. The fact-finding mission includes high-level representatives of the ECOWAS Commission who met with relevant stakeholders in the electoral process. Well, let's talk about this. Joining me in the studio is Public Affairs Analyst Biodun Sowunmi. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
Yes, what are your thoughts on preparations for tomorrow's elections, looking at it is the 6th successive poll in the Fourth Republic?
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to a very credible, fair and peaceful elections tomorrow. If you go by all accounts, by security agencies, it seems they are really up to the task. For instance, in Ogun State, they've increased the CPs, to 4, in order to ensure that they could effectively monitor what goes on in each senatorial district. And the same story, throughout the whole country. I think the security services are well prepared for it this time around, better prepared, if I may use that. Then you also look at the influence of different foreign observers in this process. They are all looking up to a situation where we can have a credible, fair, election, so that at the end of the day, the election is seen to be acceptable to the people. Because that's part of the role of the observer missions, which in the whole process is part of the process of building the confidence of the electorate to trust the outcome of the results, and also to document, irregularities which they think will substantially affect the results of election. But so far, all observers are in place, monitors have been accredited, and journalists are free to go about their lawful duties. I am looking forward to a peaceful, fair and credible election tomorrow.
Well, we're all optimistic about a credible, free and fair election, I must say. But looking at some speeches have been made in some quarters by a particular governor, do you think their fears have been calmed when it comes to that controversial statement?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that the particular governor made those remarks. Is either he was oblivious of treaties and protocols which Nigeria signed. Let me give you a good example in relation to ECOWAS. You have what they call the 2001, supplementary protocol on democracy and good governance, which Nigeria actually signed up to, and under that, ECOWAS has a right to deploy missions into the country. And they've actually started, 3 months ago, when they first came in, do their fact-finding mission, advise the stakeholders, particularly INEC, on other steps to be taken, and then they move in again in January, and they're here, with local observers, to observe the elections, the actual election itself. After that, they will write their report. There's also the ECOWAS Conflict Prevention Framework, signed in 2008, which also empower ECOWAS to ensure that they work towards the promotion of democracy, in Africa, with a view to reduce conflict in West Africa, with a view to reduce conflict. And they do this by engagement. It's not confrontational. It's also advisory as part of the process. They also offer financial and technical assistance, to INEC, to ensure that we are able to have a credible elections in the country. So that particular governor probably forgot our legal obligations under those charter. But I cannot see how observers will not be allowed to conduct elections, monitor elections in Nigeria.
Okay, the president may have calmed their fears and assured them of their safety. But let's talk about this democratic time that Nigeria is now. This mission looks more like a visit at this time that we are consolidating on democracy, seeing that Nigeria has come this far in this Fourth Republic. Do you think it's more like a visit rather than a mission?
It's not a visit, it's a mission. Because people ignore the fact that you cannot build democracy, without election. Election is, it's a component of a functioning democracy. So the moment elections are deemed not to be credible, the next problem is conflict. And that is what nobody wants. So because of that, international observers and regional observers like ECOWAS are deeply interested in what goes on in Nigeria. Don't forget, this is a country of over 200 million people. Once we have a crisis in this country, it affects the neighboring countries. It will change the whole demography, of many neighboring countries, and also, lead to migration, to Western and other development climes. That is what nobody wants. So therefore, they would normally, including the EU, send mission, into the country to monitor those elections and see what goes on. It's observation. They cannot compel us. But their reports, are seen to be independent, and their reports, count towards global perception of whatever we've done in relation to this election. So that's why it's very important for all stakeholders, to cooperate together, engage with observers, report anything you found, to be on towards, so that these things can be documented. But in relation to INEC, I must emphasize, that it seems from what some of the observers have said so far, it seems INEC cooperated with ECOWAS and some other foreign missions, including the EU. And in my view, that could only be healthy for our democracy. It can only help the cause of developing our democracy.
All right, we'll have to let you off on this. Thank you for talking to us.
It's
Public Affairs Analyst Biodun Sowunmi.